Welcome to the Friday Night Drive podcast, South and West edition. He's Shaw, sports regional editor, J.T. Pedelty. I'm Daily Chronicle sports editor, Eddie Carifio. Welcome. I want to jump right in. You probably saw this coming if you've been listening to this podcast for any amount of time. There was a new playoff/regional plan that's about to be proposed. And I love these suckers. JT hates these suckers. This one puts teams into 6-team regionals, guaranteeing you 5 games, and also expands the playoffs to 48 teams. All the details are available on FridayNightDrive.com, by the way, in the article that Seuss did an awesome job on earlier this week. So it's an expanded playoff plan, essentially, with regional teams that will be drawn up by a committee, apparently. People, will sit on it, so it won't just be the IHSA appointing stuff, which was some of the problems with the district plan. And, of course, the end result of all these plans, which I think a lot of people lose sight of, isn't to expand the playoffs necessarily, but it's to give stability to conferences. To me, I like these plans because, I don't think the Cal should be in a conference with Bradley Bourbonnais. I don't think the Interstate 8 should be struggling to find games the way they do. I don't think – what team was it of yours, JT, that had to drive up to Madison to meet a team halfway to fill a game in?
Yeah, Ottawa Marquette.
Yeah, I think a 2-win team in the playoffs is better than all of those things. And if that's what we have to pay to get it done, then I'm for it.
I guess sometimes I get the scheduling. I can understand why an athletic director would love this. I can understand why we would love this. You're having a nice, peaceful summer day. You're, grilling some hamburgers for the family, and all of a sudden someone decides they're going to jump conferences. And sorry, honey, you have to finish cooking. I won't eat. I have to go call, 3 people about some school joining school.
That is a very specific story.
To fill out a schedule. Yeah, it happened. But yeah, I just, at the end of the day, I can get why a lot of people support it. I just don't think the majority of people do. And I think that's why this doesn't pass, because what are we going to do for the next half hour? We're going to talk about how exciting the playoff races are and how great a football we have in the next 2 weeks. As a side thing, why mess that up? Or why make that we've got to win and get in matchup between 1 and 7 teams? We've got to really, I don't think it's broke. I mean, I think there are parts of it that are spiraling out, but you want to make it more like every other sport in Illinois high school sports. And everyone agrees this is the best playoff. Why mess with it?
Yeah. Well, again, you got to stop the chase for 5. And y'all hate the districts. So the expanding the playoffs is about the only other option. So
chase for 5, chase for 2. Then they'll be scheduling to chase for 2 wins. And we've already got 2 good ones.
How do you even do that, though? I mean, if you can't get, you can't get 2 wins in the current conference you're at. It's not like another conference is going to be the answer, or we'll let you in. Like, sure, DeKalb could go join the big Northern Conference and get 2 wins, but they're probably not going to let them in. So,
I mean, haven't we seen this trend? If you let all 2-win teams in, the movement's going to come to let 1-win teams in, and that's just going to be everyone's in. And I think, right now teams make the Illinois high school playoffs. They put a sign on the side of their press box. They have a parade, well, maybe not a parade, but it's a big deal to make the playoffs, and you let everyone in. It's not a big deal anymore. So I don't know why you'd want to take that how special that is away. I understand what the problem they're trying to fix. I just don't think expanding the playoffs is the solution.
Yeah. Well, we could talk in circles on this for a while. We could definitely talk in circles on this for a while, but we should move on because there are a lot of good games this week, as you pointed out. Plus, we have Sam will be with Sam Ramirez will be with us shortly to talk some football out even further west. So one I think we should start with is our Sycamore-Morris game, 2 teams we've talked about a lot this year. Theoretically, this is a I-8 title game. Sycamore can get a share of the title with Morris with a win here. It's an interesting game, but I honestly think Morris handles this one fairly easily. Sycamore had a really good start last week against LaSalle Peru, jumped out to a 27-7 lead. Well, maybe not start because they gave up a touchdown on the first drive. In case you're wondering, Marion Persic is as good as advertised. A very excellent quarterback. Led a drive for a score, but Sycamore, like I said, bounced up 27-7. Ends up 34-28. Persic almost Marion. I said Marion again, didn't I?
I
Marion.
was going to correct you just because I said it wrong for so long that I still feel bad about it.
So yeah, so Persic, the real deal, led that comeback. I got a bad feeling about this game from a Sycamore standpoint. I think Morris handles this one fairly easy. Honestly, I thought about making it my eliminator pick.
That would be bold. Yeah, we haven't seen anything from Morris that would make you think there's a chink in the armor that Sycamore would be able to take advantage of. And Morris has just kind of mowed down everyone aside from Wilmington in week 1 and that game with Peoria High. I think it was in week 3. Other than that, Morris has just kind of rolled and they've taken care of everything. Their defense has been excellent against good competition. Their offense has been, very, very good. They scored the most points in the conference. I think Canelan's right on their heels, but Morris has scored the most and given up significantly fewer points. But you know what? It's funny the way we talk about how Sycamore maybe a slight bit down, and this is still the conference championship game. So when they drew up the schedule and said we're going to have Morris Sycamore in week 8, that's going to decide the conference. It turns out they were right all along. Sycamore sitting there 3-1 in the Interstate 8, Morris 4-0, and then we have quite a few teams with 2 wins. Caitlin, Rochelle, LP. Actually, LP's.
Yeah, I was gonna.
He has 1 win. That the IHSA, whose website is getting increasingly awful, by the way. But that's for another day. The IHSA, they're for whatever reason they're counting both LaSalle Peru games as conference games. They've done that since the beginning of the year. I don't know why they can't differentiate between it. Maybe it's how the teams entered it, how it's formatted. But anyway, yeah. So LP's sitting there with 1 win. But yeah, I agree with you. I think definitely Morris has to be the favorite here. But it's Sycamore Morris. It's the end of the season for a conference championship. I'll take that.
And should also point out, Sycamore needs a win to get into the playoffs still. Sitting at 4-3 right now. Morris this week, and then they have to go down to Cahokia next week. Cahokia, I believe, 6-1 entering this week. So really tough task for them. By the way, we could point out any I8 team how far they've had to travel some of these weeks and how conference stability would help any of these things. But
yeah, or devil's advocate or Eddie's advocate. We're talking about Ottawa and LP playing twice for the second straight year. That's unfortunate. It's a nice rivalry, and I'm sure it's good at the gate and everything, and the kids are excited for it. But team shouldn't have to play a team twice in the same season.
Yeah. And again, people think that, the expanded playoffs is about letting more teams in, and that's not what it is in this case. It's just trying to make it so Ottawa and LP don't have to play twice. But anyway, here I go. I might as well just make a 6-7 joke because I'm angering myself so much. But
I want to hear what Sam Ramirez thinks about all this.
Yes, we should bring in Sam.
Well, guys, I want to start with I was on the verge.
Hit the ground running, man. I love it.
Yeah, I was going to just throw in there a couple of things. I was going to ask the boss for a raise, that it takes more time now at work than it did before trying to navigate through the IHSA website. I'll tell you, it used to be I could navigate that website in my sleep, but my goodness, trying to get around that website now, it's like it takes double the time. And yeah, it's sort of a pain sometimes to go in and try to find what you used to be able to find so easily. So that's my way of entering the conversation here today.
Yeah, they've added more drop-down menus that you have to click on, and the worst thing that's always been the worst thing about the IHSA website is that it's like a window on top of a window on top of a window. So if you click a link on this one, when it takes you to the next page, you're already half day down the page.
Yes.
No other website I've ever used is like that since like 1990, since I was like going to community college.
Right.
Like websites were like that. I don't understand. I'm sure there's a reason, and I will praise the IHSA 100 different ways for every one way I curse them for something they did.
Right.
I don't understand the website, but this is not a podcast. Sam, what I'd like to hear about from you is a big game you have up in your area, Stockton at Durand Pecatonica.
Yeah, and this game is actually in Durand. Normally they play all the games at Pecatonica High School. They have a beautiful stadium there, a beautiful facility, but they play the one game a year still in Durand because it's Durand's homecoming. And Durand's field is a lot different than what you would see at a Pecatonica High School. And if for the folks who are going to go there, be ready to stand. And if you love Class 1A football, it's where you're going to see maybe people 2-3 deep kind of gathered around the the football field. You guys can both visualize it. You guys have probably both seen that before. But the thing about this game that intrigues me is Dupek's one loss this year was to Byron, and that was a 14-12 game at halftime, which Dupek had a lead, and then Byron really broke it open in that second half. Well, Stockton this year, they've been runaway winners in all their games, including the win over Lee Win. They got a really good quarterback in Noah Larson. He can throw pretty well. He can run pretty well. And then their running back, Jack Messendike, very tough runner. But the thing I'm impressed with about Stockton is that defense, and it'll be interesting to see how they slow down, how they contain the 1-2 punch, the quarterback and the running back from Dupek. That's going to be the key, I think, Friday night.
Yeah, I really like Dupek in this one a lot. No shade on Stockton here, but like you said, Dupek, hung for the half.
Yeah,
you know what they're capable of. They have the pedigree there, so I'm kind of liking this one. And then it doesn't get any easier for Dupek next week when they get the win.
Yeah, if Dupek gets the win tonight, then all of a sudden Lena Winslow is back in the conference championship mix. If Lena Winslow can win their game Friday night and then beat Dupek next week, then you sort of got that tie atop the conference, and it could be very interesting to see how those teams would all fare as far as the standings go. I'm not sure how the Upstate Illini determines a tiebreaker, but Lena Winslow could be back in line to maybe win the conference.
Yeah, we've talked a lot, JT and I know earlier in the year about doing the marquee games week 9, and NUIC did it right putting that one in week 9.
Yeah, they did.
As opposed to what was the week 2 Byron Dixon game?
Yeah, we did see that in week 2. And I'm going to tell you right now, if Byron and Dixon played here in week 8 or week 9, I don't think that's a 3-score game. I think that would be a lot closer. I'm not saying Dixon would win. They could win, but I think it'd be a lot closer than a 28-7 win if both of those teams met Friday or next weekend.
Oh, I think you're absolutely right on that one, especially the momentum of this Dixon team, which I think we're going to get to in a minute here.
Yeah.
But I know there was one also out that way that JT wanted to bring up, and that's Monrose and Rockridge.
Yeah.
JT?
So.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, go ahead, JT.
Oh, I was just going to say, 7-0, 7-0. This is obviously, you don't get too many undefeated matchups this late in the season into week 8. So that adds its own drama with it. No playoff drama. We know they're both in, but we get the drama of, hey, who's going to stay undefeated? And, always when you're sitting there, some people say like, oh, they have 7 wins, they can relax. Not if you want a first round home playoff game, you can't, So we've seen it so many times over the years where 8-1s end up the way brackets break, 8-1s end up going on the road in the first round of the playoffs. And in the same class, a 7-2 is home. So you never know how it's going to break, that's why Steve Susi's building another story on his house, because he can project that stuff. We cannot. I think this looks like a great matchup, Sam.
It does. And what I think's fun about this game is you have 2 conference champs now. I went to Newman High School, so I should know which teams are in the Rock and which teams are in the Mississippi. You guys, I have no clue. I have to look at it every single week to figure out which 6 are in this and which 6 are in that. So with that being said, I don't remember if Monmouth Roseville won the Rock or Mississippi, but I do know that one of them won the Rock, one of them won the Mississippi. But what's fun is to have an unofficial conference championship game. To me, this is the game that will determine who's the best team in the 3 Rivers. And a lot of times when you have conferences that are split, you don't get these types of games. So very cool to be able to do that. Rock Ridge, of course, now ranked number 1 in 2A. Monmouth Roseville still lingering out of the top 10. But I think this is going to be a close game at Rock Ridge Friday night.
I don't want to look it up because I don't want to cheat. But I think Monmouth Roseville would be in the Mississippi because Princeton's in the Mississippi. And Rock Ridge has rock in its name. So
That's a good way to remember it.
I'm thinking that's the way it goes, but I'm not going to look it up. I don't want to cheat. You know what? One other one up your way, an 8-man game. Alden Hebron. Are they Little Giants?
I think they're the Little Giants. Yeah,
they are.
Best story in Illinois high school sports, their basketball team. Alden Hebron and Milledgeville, another matchup of 2 teams with very successful records, already in the playoffs. An 8-man, it tends to work out. It's a little more forgiving to those 4 and 5 teams. Even some 3 and 6s slip in sometimes on that 8-man bracket, I think. So these teams are both very easily in, but again, playing for seeding, playing for a home playoff game in the first round, all those things. And Milledgeville's just been decimating opponents with their offense, Sam.
Yeah, they're averaging 49 a game, and their offense has just been so explosive this year. And really, they've rolled over the competition. Week 1, they beat Amboy. I want to say it was like 30-22, but since then, it's pretty much been running clock wins for the Milledgeville Missiles. And the thing about 8-man football that I find interesting, once you get to the playoffs and you got your 16 teams in the playoffs, if you have a higher seed, a lot of times in 8-man, the higher seeds continue to win. So if you are a number 1 seed, you could end up with 3 home playoff games before you get to the state championship. We've seen that before. So I think it's important for both of these teams to get a win to try to stay as a higher seed when the playoffs come out next Saturday.
Yeah, the 8-man bracket tends to go a lot more chalk than the
yes
than the 11-man brackets do.
Yes,
By
absolutely.
The way, I don't mind cheating. I looked it up, JT. You're right. It did take me considerably longer than it probably should have to have looked it up, but that's fine.
So you're saying I rock?
You rock.
Or you miss it. Whatever. I had something for this. Come back to me.
Mississippi Pedelty.
There you go.
You know what, Sam? One you did not have on your list, but I wanted to talk with you. You know, Eddie alluded to earlier. Your area, your home area, my home area, and I think it's just a really good way to kind of look at 2 programs that were once pretty much almost identical to each other in the same conference for 50 years or whatever, 45 years, however long the NCIC and then the NIB 12 were around, in the same conference, broke up. Both of them left that conference at the same time for the same reasons, went different directions because of geography. But Dixon comes in 6-1. They're visiting Streeter 1-6. Streeter could have taken a forfeit when Lyle forfeited their varsity season. And man, I give Streeter a lot of credit. You know, you're welcome to town, a team that is, one of the best middle-sized schools in the state, one that Streeter has some history with, and one that's really good. It's going to be really tough for Streeter to hang with on what I believe is their senior night. So this is an interesting matchup, and it really points out kind of the way that different directions the programs went, not just geographically.
Yeah, I think what happened when Dixon left it was the Northern Illinois Big 12 at the time. Their final year, they were 3-6, and it was actually a Week 9 win over Streeter. It was like 29-27 back in 2013, and the Dukes, I think, went 3-6 that year, and then Streeter finished like 2-7. The following year,
going into that game, they played, and then they.
Oh, were they?
Yes.
So the following year, Dixon joins the Big Northern, and they've advanced to the playoffs every single year since, with the exception of the COVID shortened year. The big thing for Dixon is they went from sort of being the small school of a conference to being the large school of a conference. And people in Dixon think that this is a perfect fit for them. There are some teams fans in the Big Northern that think Dixon maybe belongs somewhere else. Different topic for a different day. But Dixon has been able to have success. And then when you have success and you start winning, the kids are buying into the program. Guys, there was a time when Dixon was going 0-9, 1-8, 2-7, and some of your best football players weren't even playing football. I should say some of your best athletes were just sort of roaming the halls, not playing football. Now those kids are out for football, and really it started with Coach Dave Smith. He was a Dixon coach and did the success, got them into the playoffs. But I think Coach Jared Shaner now has sort of taken it to the next level. And expectations now in Dixon, guys, it's not just going 5-4 and getting the playoffs. The expectation every year is to win conference and make a deep run in the playoffs. Now they're going to fall short this year, losing to Byron, but they still expect to maybe go deep into the 4A playoffs. But I think the scheduling and coaching has really been the big difference over the last 10, 11 years for the Dukes.
Yeah, and we talk about the similarities between these programs from where they went, where they started in 2013 when they both left that the NIB 12, and kind of where they are now. Streeter with a new first-year head coach, Jay Sloan. I've been very impressed with him. Just the way he handles the sideline, the rapport he has with the players. He's a younger coach. He's in really good shape. He played defensive line at Valpo. He's an impressive guy who's always been a winner. And he's sitting there and that's the type of guy I could see, if I was 16 years old, man, that's the type of guy that could get me to run through a brick wall too. That's a role model. So I like what he's trying to build in. He's trying to instill attention to detail.
Yeah.
Just being regular with things, not I'll miss this practice and he's trying to kind of build something from the ground up. And I think Dixon is a great, I don't know if model's the right word, but like Dixon, Streeter, biggest school in its conference. When Streeter, you mentioned kind of in the Big Northern that some people maybe think Dixon doesn't. When this Illinois Central 8 first formed, if my little birds talking were correct at the time, Streeter was not one of those other schools. Maybe we're like, maybe we can find someone more our size and a better drive than Streeter. And when that fell through, then Streeter got the invitation. So, kind of just so many similarities between them, but they're in very different places right now. I will say, just personally, it'll be very fun to see Streeter playing Streeter football, playing Dixon football on a Friday night. It's been a long time. And that was something, that my parents grew up watching. So I think that's pretty cool. It'd be neat if they could get a little rivalry going again.
I still remember, guys, I started working here in 1994, and one of my first games was in 1998. We were down at Streeter. I was doing color commentary for Dixon on our WIXN station, and I can still remember sitting in a press box. I don't even know if that press box is still there or not.
They just remodeled it.
Did they remodel it?
No longer decorated like it's 1976.
But I remember Streeter being a fun atmosphere. It was a fun place to go. Takes you out to the middle of nowhere, as you would know, JT, but it was a fun place to go watch football. And man, it would be nice to see Streeter, start to get success. And it sounds like they got the right guy in charge. And you hope that after a couple of years, the kids start buying back into the program and they're able to turn that around.
I just wanted to point out really quick how fun is the BNC going to be next year with Byron, Dixon, and Dupek.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun.
So I think we can move on to the Eliminator right now. Where are we at? Oh, yeah. So last week I went Sycamore over LaSalle, Peru. Last minute change after I forgot to put my pick down and saw JT had taken Seneca St. Bede. A little closer than we like for the Eliminator, but I come out with that one. JT got Seneca St. Bede, and it was Hawks last week picking Marquette over Elmwood Brimfield. So, again, 3 for 3. Everybody's still alive. We're going to have to figure out how to accelerate this when the playoffs start, by the way. But this week, what do we got? Sam?
Well, guys, I'm going with Genoa Kingston to beat Rock Falls. I truly thought Rock Falls was going to get a win last week over a winless Chillicothe IVC team. It was scoreless at halftime. Rock Falls ended up giving up 4 touchdowns in the second half to lose. While Genoa Kingston, they're 3-4. Essentially, their playoffs start Friday night, but they do have a big one next week against Byron. But Genoa Kingston has to take care of business first of all. So I think they beat Rock Falls on Friday night. I like Genoa Kingston as my pick.
Eddie, I'd love for you to say yours because I don't want to pick the same one as Sam, and that's what I had down.
Oh, did you have that down, JT?
Not until after you sent yours in. Eddie let me know that I tried to cheat.
Oh,
so Eddie, you go.
You picked the team you'd already picked against. I do want to pick out. It's GK versus Dixon next week, not Byron.
I'm sorry. Yes.
And they have Dixon next week. The 2 of the last 3 games against those teams with Rock Falls sandwiched in the middle. So, GK, tough situation with where they're looking at probably finishing 4-5, and their 3 of their losses this year, including the Seneca, by a touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just a really tough way for that to play out for them. But my pick, I'm staying in the Big Northern Conference. And I'm going with Oregon over Winnebago. Winnebago can put up points. I saw them play GK. That was a high-scoring shootout, but they can give up even more. So I think Oregon probably handles this one fairly easily. They probably might give up a couple more points than they usually do, but I'm going Oregon over Bago for my eliminator. Did I give you enough time, JT?
I'm not stalling. I'm listening.
You can go GK over Rock Falls.
Thinking about the things you were saying. No, you know what? I one that I think I'm just making sure I didn't pick them already, and I don't think I did. This is a game I'd like to talk about, and I really hate picking against this team because they've had such a breakthrough season. But I'm gonna go ahead and take Coal City over Herscher. This is a matchup of 6-1 Coal City, 5 nope, I already took Coal City. All right, scratch that. How about Wilmington over Reed Custer? Yes.
Okay. Let's say Wilmington over Reed Custer.
Reed Custer 3-4. Same situation with Herscher. I hate picking against Reed Custer. They've had such a great breakthrough season. They're on the verge, and with this win, Reed Custer would get into the playoffs because they have a forfeit coming. They're really 4-4, but I don't see them as far as they've come. I don't see them joining Wilmington. So my eliminator pick will be the Wildcats over the Comets.
Okay, so those are our eliminator picks for the week. Sam, appreciate you being here as always, man.
Eddie and JT, I always appreciate the time and hope to see you guys either next week or when the playoffs start in a couple of weeks.
We'll talk
Sounds
soon,
awesome.
man.
Thanks, guys.
So I think probably now's as good a time as any to take a quick break.
SGKR Injury Attorneys tackles the toughest cases. I'm Matt Rundio. When life throws a flag, we go on offense to protect your rights. Don't get sidelined. Score a touchdown with SGKR. Visit us at sgkr.law.
At Oliver's, we are proud to serve our community. We serve up great customer service, quality products, ease of shopping, and we serve up delicious barbecued sandwiches at our fundraiser cookouts. So stop by Oliver's, 748 North Brinton and Dixon, and help fund our local clubs and events.
In Illinois and into Iowa, the story of Shaw Media is a story of trust. Since 1851, we've been informing, connecting, and reflecting the communities we serve, large and small, rural and urban, suburban, and river towns alike. With dozens of local newspapers, radio stations, magazines, and specialty brands like Friday Night Drive and Starve Rock Country, we meet people wherever they are. We shine a light on local government. We celebrate Friday night touchdowns. We tell the stories that shape your day, from neighborhood heroes to the Chicago Bears. But what truly sets us apart? It's our people. The award-winning journalists, broadcasters, and storytellers who live here, work here, and care deeply about what matters most to you. We don't just report the news. We're part of the fabric of the places we serve, from the Mississippi to the Illinois, from the Fox all the way to the chain of lakes. Trusted for generations, still earning it every day. Shaw Media, your most trusted local source.
And welcome back to the Friday Night Drive podcast, Cornfields edition. Eddie, you know what? We have a few games we want to talk about. I thought we could maybe go counterclockwise. If you look at a map of the state, starting with Herscher 5-2 at Coal City. I kind of mentioned this one as a possible eliminator, even though I'd really hate to pick against Herscher, because I love the job Coach Mike Mosier's done with the Tigers, back in the playoffs for the first time in 7 years. I put in our notes, did anyone have Herscher, 5-2 and still alive for the Coyotes? Like, oh yeah, I did. I think a lot of people around the conference saw that something good was building in Herscher, and it's great to see that they kind of cash that in. Now, are they ready? Like I said with Reed Custer, are they ready to join the Wilmingtons and Coal Cities of the ice? I probably not yet, but it's been great to see them building something, and a respectable showing in this one could really announce that, Herscher football's back.
Yeah, they lost to Wilmington earlier, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So, this should be an interesting one. I mean, you probably got to obviously you like Coal City in this one, but, it is one of those, like you said, the story of seeing a team, make that leap. So it's a good one to see. I know there was one up here as we continue our counterclockwise spin as we now head a little further west. I just wanted to touch on this one really quick, and we haven't talked a lot about the Calb this year. They're 2-5 right now. They're eliminated from the playoffs. They do get to play spoiler though. I think they have a prime chance here to play spoiler against Andrew. Andrew out of Tinley Park. So we're venturing a little. I hope we don't get a cease and desist from from the flagship. But Andrew enters this game 4-3. But they got Bradley Bourbonnais lurking next week, and they've only got one loss. So we get the upset here. And the reason why I think that this is in play is because Andrew's played a lot of close games this year. It means they played some good teams like the Lincoln Ways, Central and West. They played them close. They also struggled against a 1-6 Waubonsee Valley team in like a 42-40 shootout. So, I mean, there's and all the teams they've beaten, I think, have 0-1. Oh, no, there's a 2 in Plainfield South team they beat. that's the best of the teams they've beaten. And I know, we're talking about this from the standpoint of a 2-5 DeKalb team, but DeKalb has Devon Grant, Illinois grad. He's actually heading up early. We'll be graduating early, going to Illinois. He last 2 weeks has set records, school records, one for receiving yards, one for catches. Probably not going to get touchdowns. That will stay safe in the hands of NIU and CFL legend Cole Tucker. So I feel like they have a chance in this one. I don't know, but probably will end up like 48-12. But I still feel like there's a chance to Cal play, especially if they dig down and in that spoiler role and realize they can have a hand in keeping a team out of the playoffs.
Yeah, I hope DeKalb can. They kind of seem like they've all been almost. I hate using this phrase because some people think of it as a phrase that means it's like an excuse. It's like, and that it's never the way I mean it. And I don't think it's the way the phrase is meant to be used. But kind of snake bitten, kind of a lot of close losses, a lot of weird things that happen. You mentioned their conference affiliation. Just like some things have conspired that have made it hard for DeKalb to kind of gain traction. So it'd be nice here as we get towards the tail end of the season for them to, maybe, get a foot planted and be able to push into the offseason with a little enthusiasm.
I think snake bitten's a great term for it, not just like on the field stuff, but just like you said, the circumstances that have been surrounding the program for a couple of years with the conference instability and all that stuff. I think it's a great term for it.
Yeah, I think the current head coach, Derek Schneeman, I think he took over pretty late in a summer when he kind of came on board a few years ago and probably didn't have the full summer to do what wasn't the role he was expecting when he moved there, I don't believe.
He definitely came here as the offensive coordinator.
Yeah. And I think, I think a lot of people take snake bitten as like, that's making excuses. But, if you're bit by a snake, you're not making an excuse. You just got bit by a dang snake. So I would love to see them build some momentum going. And kind of the last one we had on our list, kind of completing the circuit here, down my way, Knoxville 4-3 visiting Marquette 4-3. This is the second straight week Marquette's playing a team with an identical record to theirs. Another playoff hopeful. Last week it was Elmwood Brimfield, and Marquette just dismantled them. It was really, I think if you've listened to the podcast throughout the season, I think you probably heard me be a little uncertain about Marquette to start the season, and kind of as results have come in, I think at one point they were they 2-3, 2-2. At one point in the, it started being like, man, having seen the team in person for the first time last Friday down in Elmwood, which has a beautiful field, by the way, never been there before, and a fantastic pork chop sandwich, 2 pork chops tall.
Wow.
Yes.
So that actually had to be juicy then.
It was very
That's usually my problem with the pork chop sandwiches is they tend to be thin and they tend to get dry.
Yeah, you got to get the good ones. But yeah, they had a wonderful facility, and unfortunately they didn't have a wonderful night because Marquette just took it to them. Very impressive. Ended up 51-6. If they would have played another quarter, it would have been 91-6. Marquette could have played as much as long as they wanted. By the end of the game, they had a couple of their players with the coaches' headsets on and calling defenses, and then we're having a good time with it. But just their lines look fantastic. Grant Dose is just a beast for Marquette at running back. Their defense was getting after it. It's just, one of these two teams, not be it Knoxville or Marquette, is going to be punching their playoff ticket. This Saturday, the game was moved to Saturday. I think that team will be Marquette.
Yeah, you said, you were down on them a little bit. Even with the losses, it seemed like you were coming around on them because it was a tough schedule they played. We've talked about it in depth this year, about the schedule they've had, and those losses aren't, bad losses.
No, not at all. I mean, Aurora Christian, we talked, previously about the Edgar, Wisconsin, which is a small school state champion up there that they met halfway or almost halfway. And Seneca's pretty good. I think we've talked about them a few times on here. Yeah. So, that's their 3 losses, and none of them were really blowouts. Seneca and Aurora Christian both kind of got away from them late, but they were, in those games, a little bit of a different offense for them this year with the new head coach, Ken Carlson, kind of opened it up a little more. And they've just been, I was really impressed having seen them in person. I talked with Coach Carlson after the game Friday. I'm just like, I've said this on the podcast a few times, but man, if I'm a 9-0 or an 8-1, I am sitting there on the Saturday playoff show being like, please don't send me Ottawa Marquette. Not saying that they're going to run to a state championship or anything, but boy, they look like a team that is built for this time of year. And they look like a problem in Class 1A.
Yeah, they're gonna give someone a tough first round game. For sure. Where are you at this week?
This week I'm gonna get my first view of Seneca. We talked about Seneca earlier. Gonna see them. They have a 4-3 team coming to town. I'm blanking. Talking about everything else and totally blanked on the actual game I'm going to. But yeah, Seneca has a good matchup this time. Trying to go to 8-0. They're hosting St. Joe Ogden. So it'll be fun watching Seneca, which wants to run every single down if possible, and St. Joe Ogden, which likes to throw it around every down if possible. So it should be a fun matchup of conflicting styles and hopefully a good ball game. How about you, Eddie?
I'll be at the Andrew DeKalb game. I haven't seen DeKalb in a few weeks. It's going to be good to see them again. I feel like I've done a lot of Sycamore games here lately. Andrew DeKalb, like I said, I'm kind of looking forward to this one. So as always, all our preview and coverage on FridayNightDrive.com. Don't forget the live show with Susan Rodewald. Friday night starting at 9:30. So I want to say 9:30.
I'm usually always
check out our
on the
YouTube
sideline
channel
when it starts. So
yeah, we all are. But so check that out, FridayNightDrive.com. He's JT Pedelty. I'm Eddie Carifio. Thank you for listening.